Hello guys, welcome back to another Android Studio tutorial. In today's episode, we are going to learn about another feature of an Android action bar. In this episode, we are going to learn about what is the use of up button on the action bar. Suppose your application contain a number of activities, so the user have to click the back button again and again to come back to the home activity. And if you place an up button on the action bar, the user can directly come back to the home activity by just pressing the up button on the action bar. That is the use of the up button on the action bar. So by placing an up button on the action bar, you can specify logical parent of each activity. So here I am going to show you how to use an up button on the action bar. So this application contain only a one activity, that is the main activity, so we have to add another two activities. So here I'm going to add two activities. So create a new activity, say blank activity. I specify the activity name as child activity 1. Specify the layout name as child layout 1. Okay, and click OK, click finish. Okay, now here we add one activity. Now I'm going to add one more activity. Create another activity, again a blank activity. Name the activity as child activity 2. Child activity 2, and change the layout name into child layout 2. Child layout 2, and click finish. So we have two activities, child activity 1 and child activity 2. Also we have the main activity. So go back to the activity main.xml file. We have to add some GUI component into the activity main.xml file. So here I'm going to add a large text view. A large text view is added. Also I need a button to start a child activity. Go to the XML version and specify a name for the activity, home activity. Okay, here is the button. Change the text of the button. Start first child. Also I have to specify an on-click method for the button. I name it as Android on-click. Name it as start child. Okay, so on the home activity we have a button and a text view. So the user can start the first child activity by pressing this button. So go to the main activity. We have to define that method. So here I am going to define that method, public void start child. Don't forget to add the view argument. Okay, so from this method I have to start the first child. So call the start activity method, specify an indent object, new indent, specify context. Now specify the class name. The class name is child activity 1. Okay, this will start the first activity. Yeah, we have to specify the class name, class. Okay, so from the main activity the user can move it to the first child activity. So we have to open up the child activity XML file. This is the child layout 1. So here also the same thing. We have to add some message and a button to start the second activity. So add a text view, Also add a button, the same thing. Specify a text for the activity first child. Okay, and specify some button text. Start second child. Also specify an on click method. Android on click start child. Okay, now go back to the activity 1, child activity 1.java. Here you have to specify that method. Again the same method, public void start child. Don't forget to add the view argument. Okay, from this method I have to start the second child. So call the start activity, specify the indent, new indent, specify context object this. Now specify the class name. The class name is child activity 2 dot class. Okay, and go back to the child activity 2 XML file. Here we have to display some message to indicate this one is the second child. So add a large text view, and this is the second child. Okay, so we have two activity, first child and second child, and from the main activity the user can start the first child activity, and from the first child activity the user can start the second child. Okay, so before going to add the up button, I'm going to run this application now. Okay, here is the main activity or the home activity. Now here I am going to start the first child activity. So this is the first child activity. Now start the second child activity. So this is the third activity, that means the second child activity. So if the user need to go back to the main activity or the home activity, he need to click the back button. So I click the back button. If I click the back button, it will go back to the first activity, not to the main activity. Now again he need to click the back button to come back to the home activity or the main activity. That is the problem. If there is a number of activities are available, the user needs to click the back button again and again to come back to the home activity. Now here I'm going to set some up button on the action bar for the child activities. So the first thing, you need to set something on the Android manifest.xml file. So go to the Android manifest.xml file. Here is the main activity, and here is the child activities. There are two child activities, child activity 1 and child activity 2. So first here I am going to set the up button, that means the logical parent for the first child, that means child activity 1. For that you have to add another attribute here, Android this one, parent activity name, and here you need to specify the class name for the parent activity. Here the parent activity is the main activity. Okay, and here is the second activity, the second child activity. Here also I specify the parent activity name. Here also the parent is main activity. So the up button is supporting from Android version 4.0 and above. Sorry, it is not available in 4.0. It is available for version higher than 4.0. For getting support from 4.0 and lower, you need to add some metadata into the activity. So here you need to add some metadata. This is for getting support for Android version 4.0 and lower. Okay, first you have to specify some Android name. Android name equal to Android dot support dot parent activity. Okay, now you need to specify the value for the attribute Android value. Here the parent activity is main activity. The same thing you need to add for the second child activity, the same metadata. Okay, so now the metadata is for Android version 4.0 and lower, and if the Android version is greater than 4.0, then there is no need of this metadata. You can use this only, Android parent activity name only. Okay, so now we add the needed component into the Android manifest.xml file. Now we have to enable the up button for the action bar for the two child activities. So go to the first child activity 1. Child activity 1. Okay, here it is. And here you need to enable the up button on the action bar. For that, get the action bar. I use the get support action bar dot, and you have to call a method called set display home as up. Type the method set to display home as up enabled, this one, and make the value as true. Okay, this will enable the up button on the action bar. So if you working with Android version 3.0 and above, instead of get support action bar, you can, instead of this get support action bar, you can call the get action bar. This is for Android version 3.0 and lower. Okay, so now we enable the up button for the first child activity. So now we have to enable the up button for the second child activity. So go to the child activity 2 and enable the up button for the second child activity. Okay, now we finish all the coding. Now we can test the application. Okay, now here is the main activity. I go to the first child activity. Now on the action bar we can see the up button in the left corner. This is the up button on the action bar. Now I am going to the second child. This is the second child. Here also we enable the up button on the action bar. Okay, suppose I want to go to the main activity. I need to click the back button again and again to come back to the home activity. And now I am going to the last activity again. So now I am in the second child activity. So if I click the back button, it will go back to the first child activity. And if I want to directly go back to the main activity or the home activity, I can just click the up button on the action bar. This will directly go to the home activity or the main activity. That is the use of the up button on the action bar. You can specify logical parent for each of the activities. I hope you understand the concepts. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.